Okay, welcome back to Strategy 9. We're still working in TABE Reading M. Make sure you have your book with you. We are on page 48 if you need a little orientation to where we are in the book. Again, if you don't have the paper copy of the book, it's here for you on Canvas, Files and TABE Reading M pages. And the last time we talked about point of view in literary text. This time we're going to be looking at point of view in informational text. And there's a little bit of a difference in the way that we talk about point of view in informational text. Yes, passages will still be told from first, second, third person point of view. We'll have sometimes first-hand accounts, sometimes second-hand accounts in third person. That'll be described here in just a minute. But when we're dealing with informational text, oftentimes in point of view, we're looking at an author's perspective or opinion as well. Or if an author has, some experience within the thing they're writing about, we talk about that as part of the point of view. They're establishing their credibility because maybe they work within the industry that they're writing about. So point of view, when we talk about it in literature, can affect, the meaning of a story or the feel of a story as it's told. In the world of informational texts, point of view is often too about establishing credibility and clarifying who has done what and when and where. And as we get into it, you'll see kind of how that skill is developed, because we're going to look at two passages that are on the same topic several times. They're called paired passages. They come in pairs. But certainly on the GED, you're asked to work with paired passages, usually on the same or a similar topic, but we'll take a different point of view or perspective on that topic. So we'll work with that in this particular strategy. Nonfiction text can be first-hand accounts or second-hand accounts. First-hand, the person writing it was there, witnessed it. Second-hand, the writer was not there. Doesn't mean that it's not true or that it's unreliable, but it does mean that it's second-hand. In a first-hand account, authors explain an event or topic based on their experience. A diary of a Civil War soldier is a first-hand account. A diary entry tells readers what life was like for soldiers. Letters, autobiographies, and interviews are also first-hand accounts. In a second-hand account, authors use research to explain an event or topic. Authors might use books, articles, and interviews to explore a topic. Then they write about the topic. They do not include their personal experience. A magazine article about Civil War soldiers is a second-hand account. The magazine article might describe what life was like for soldiers. Books can also be second-hand accounts. And to kind of clarify what the difference could mean in a text like this. So the first-hand account from the soldier very vividly and with a lot of credibility can show us what daily life was like for that particular soldier and those who were around him. But a second-hand account may be better at showing, what life was like in general for all soldiers in the Civil War, because they're looking not just at one individual, but many through, historical accounts. A second-hand account may have a bigger grasp on the big picture of what was going on. It's doubtful that the average everyday soldier in the Civil War knew what was going on in other parts of the country during the Civil War, considering there was, of course, no phones or internet or electricity. So, first-hand and second-hand, don't think that first-hand is always better in informational text. There are advantages and disadvantages to each. Okay. Both first-hand accounts and second-hand accounts contain a point of view. First person in first, and actually third person in second hand, ironically enough. In nonfiction, point of view is the attitude or opinion of the author. When you read nonfiction, think about what the author's point of view is. What opinion does the author have about the topic? Also think about what the author's reason for writing is. Does the author want you to believe or do something? Answering these questions can help you understand a text. It can also help you form an opinion about the topic. As you read, think about whether each account is first-hand or second-hand. Then think about what the author wants you to know and believe about the topic. Okay, so I'm going to leave you to do that here in a second. You can hit pause on this video and work through all passages and work in this lesson. So that will bring you to page 51. And this is, in fact, the last lesson in this unit. So work through it and then hit play on the video to resume it, and we will talk about the answers to these questions and talk about the passages as we do that. All right, so we had two different takes on animal research in these two passages, both about the same length, but taking differing views on it. So, question one says, reread using animals to understand Parkinson's disease. That was the first one of the two. What point of view does the author have? Well, first of all, she does have a first-hand point of view. She has worked in the field of animal research and Parkinson's research using animals, using monkeys to be specific. And her view on it is that animal research is necessary and can be conducted ethically and fairly. Okay, number two, what reason does the author of using animals to understand Parkinson's disease give for why treatments for Parkinson's disease must be tested on animals? And first of all, it would be unethical to test it on people. I think we would agree on that. To make people our guinea pigs. But she goes on to say that monkeys have a similar nervous system to humans. So oftentimes, whatever treatments work for monkeys with Parkinson's disease will also work for human beings because of the similarity of their systems. Number three, how does the author use her own experience to argue that animals are not mistreated? Well, she describes her own personal professional experience and how the animals are treated and taken care of. I mean, aside from the fact they're being tested on, she really tries to make the case that they're not being abused in any other way. But obviously, the second author takes a much different take on it as we scroll down to the next page of questions. The clue, there are better alternatives, already clues us into what her perspective on this is going to be. It says, what reason does the author give for why using animals in research does not always produce the desired results? And in a basic sense, animals are not humans. She says there are differences in their systems as compared to people, even when they are proclaimed to be similar, as in the case of monkeys. She claims that there are key differences that make research less effective than it could be. What do you think the author's reason is for writing this text? Well, she doesn't agree with animal research and thinks that we should find other ways to research our treatments. There are plenty of words that she uses to kind of to show her point of view, to establish that tone. I wrote down misleading, unnecessary. The arguments of animal researchers are misleading. She says that it's unnecessary. There were a lot of words that communicated the same thing in there. So if you got different ones, that's okay. They're probably correct. 5, what do both articles suggest about the care of research animals? Well, both of them agree that there should be a lot of care and consideration in taking care of research animals. In the second passage, they shouldn't be tested on at all. And in the first passage, they should be tested on minimally and only for a good purpose. But it does proclaim that it's a good purpose. Okay, in our second pair of passages, we had the debate about tipping, whether tipping should be included or not. So number 6, which statement best explains how it's only fair differs from here's a tip, and B, it's only fair as a second-hand account and argues for fair wages. So the previous passage, the other one about tipping, was a first-hand account and argues against tipping. So B is the answer here for the second passage. Number 7, what do both articles suggest is true about many servers in restaurants? And it's A, that they do not work in upscale restaurants. hold on a second. That's wrong. It's C, they do not receive benefits like health insurance. That is true in both cases. I misspoke there. I didn't read the question closely enough. 8. How do the two arguments differ about the idea that tips motivate servers? And it's B. It's only fair argues that tips do not lead to good service, while Here's a Tip argues that they do. And that's the end of it. We only had 3 questions that went along with those two passages. I think that part of the reason I misspoke here with 7 is that I tend to think this, that as I read the first-hand account of the server who worked in New York City, I think to myself, well, not everybody works in New York City and is getting hundreds of thousands of dollars in tips a night. Most servers work in smaller cities or communities at restaurants that are not upscale, so they don't get this kind of money flowing in. So, revealing a little bit of my bias here, I don't agree with a whole lot of what was in the Here's a Tip passage, the first-hand account, which kind of goes to show you that just because accounts are first-hand or second-hand, that's no reflection of their quality or accuracy. We could have a biased, inaccurate first-hand account, just like we can have a fair, unbiased second-hand account. Maybe more likely in some cases that we get an unbiased second-hand account because the person wasn't there and doesn't have a dog in the fight, so to speak, not involved in the situation. Okay, this was not a super long lesson or strategy here, and we've ended the unit, so the next thing that you'll be doing actually is doing the Unit 2 review practice test. You'll be doing it with the annotation strategy, which I'm not sure I put annotation in this particular class at any point yet. So if annotating the test is a bit of a problem, then rely on the video that I'm going to post on how to annotate documents. But if you're not comfortable with it, watch the video, and certainly you can call up here to school or email me if you have questions on how to use the annotation tool to do your test. All right, I'll see you next time when we are going over the answers to the Unit 2 review.